How we going? I've got two of you today. That's a pleasant surprise. How are we?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's nice and early in the morning on this hot Australian day. Whereabouts in the world are you two at the moment?
We are just north of Washington, D.C., in Silver Spring, Maryland, just across the river.
Just across the river. Yeah, well, you've got a big river to cross when you come all the way down here in February. How excited are you guys to actually make your way down to Australia?
So excited. First time for the majority of us boys in AngelMaker. Yeah, I was there a few years ago, and yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to come back.
Have you given any advice or are you trying to trick them? Because I know us Aussies like to play tricks on how dangerous some of these animals are or how often they can show up in your shoes. Or have you kind of been nice to the boys so far and called us all a bunch of liars?
We're just gonna let them go. They're flying in blind, so they'll figure it out.
Yeah, they will figure it out. And you're coming down at probably the hottest time of year as well. So you escape that American winter and come down to a blazing Aussie summer. So good fun,
Oh
good
yeah.
fun. But look, we're excited to have you guys down here. It's going to be a massive tour. You're playing a lot too. Not a lot of bands when they come down for the first time have the opportunity to play Perth. So that's amazing. And I know the fans are very excited because I know you guys tour. You've probably seen in Facebook comments or something before the please come to Brazil. If you do not come to Perth when you announce an Australian tour, all you will get in the comments is please come to Perth. It's the exact same thing. So you guys are avoiding that backlash.
I'm very excited to play Perth. Like I know it's quite the distance away from everything else, but I have a few homies out there. Yeah, I'm excited to actually reunite with them.
Oh man, that's awesome. It's funny. So many people when they come down to tour Australia have told me, yeah, I know people that live in Perth. I don't know why like there are so many people in Perth, but I've never been over there myself. So I think you're going to enjoy it. It's a beautiful city. I've heard really good things. But getting to it, coming down here, you've got the new single out as well. Tell me a little bit. Is there a new album coming out as well, or was this new single just to be done to kind of have something new to tour for?
Yeah, there is definitely a new album coming out.
Beautiful.
As to when, we don't exactly know, but it's basically done and ready. It's
Oh
just in
wow.
the oven.
That's fantastic. Well, I was about to say, do you have any idea? But you've already kind of answered that question, saying you're not sure when. But that's the thing these days as well. And you guys have both been touring for the longest time. With the Spotify algorithm, how's that kind of changed how you guys release singles and albums now? Because I've noticed in the past it used to be maybe 3 months before the album came out, you release a music video basically when the album comes out, and there you go. Now bands are releasing singles almost 2 years before the album comes out to get on those this is heavy Spotify playlists, this is new metal music Spotify playlists. Is that the same approach you guys are trying to do, or is it something that's it's are you just adapting with times?
Yeah, we've definitely tried that approach before.
Mm,
We've also tried like other approaches. Like for our album Sanctum, we actually released it in quadrants.
yeah,
So we had Dusk, Dawn, Twilight. What was the last one? Eclipse. And then we put all of those together and made the album Sanctum. So we tried releasing it in that fashion, but we've done like a more, we'll call it neo-traditional style where you release like maybe one, two singles over the course of a year, maybe two,
yeah.
um, and then actually release the record in full. Uh, I don't know. Things are changing these days, and we're down to try different styles and things and see how
Yeah.
they pan out.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. And talking about change as well, like the scene, especially the extremely heavy scene you boys are involved in as well, over the last 2 years has kind of been pushed to the forefront a little bit. I wouldn't say it's mainstream at all, definitely not. But more people are embracing kind of like this whole deathcore or even blackened deathcore or death metal has become more popular. I guess ever since the pandemic ended, I don't know if it kind of the two went side by side of we're coming out of this thing, we couldn't leave the house for a long time, this heavy music is kind of energizing me. But you actually being in the scene, what have you noticed the difference over the last few years?
For me, I haven't toured in 4 years or so.
Mm,
For me, I'm noticing like a lot of like younger people coming out that a few years ago they might have been not very familiar with the music scene. So when they come to shows, they're kind of fresh into it. They're all kind of green and just having a good time.
yeah,
Um, then you do have people that are kind of more cautious ever since COVID. So I guess it's dependent on where you're at, who you're playing with, uh, as far as the dynamic of the show goes. So it's kind of touches base here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's a good point as well. I guess down here in Australia, I think because just speaking of my own, like myself, pre-pandemic, people go, oh, might see the band next time they come. I don't think people realize how far you guys have to fly to actually come down here. I've made that flight before. I wouldn't wish that on people. So it's a very big thing. I think now we're not taking it for granted anymore. It's like, well, if they're coming down here, better see them because you just don't know. You just don't know. And I feel crowds are a bit more energetic these days as well. People are going out going, right, this is happening. It got taken away before, not letting it happen now. And I'm even getting in the pit. My knees feel it the next day. I'm getting older. Everything hurts. But it's one of those fun things to actually get out there and just live this style, especially this style of music. And like I said, it's becoming a bit more. I know with Will Ramos coming out and being kind of like the pretty boy golden retriever of deathcore, that turned a lot of people onto this style of music. And I've got a perfect example of Friends. They skipped Metallica. There was no gateway band. They went straight to Job for a Cowboy and Lorna Shore. And I was kind of like, wow, this is kind of unreal. You went from hard style to deathcore. It's kind of amazing to see the popularity on it. And I got to say, mate, that raccoon shirt is the best shirt I've ever seen in my life. I am very jealous of that.
Yeah, that's the best shirt. Pretty good one.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. But getting back to it, two vocalists recording. I know you've only just recently joined the band. How's the dynamic work out when you're writing a song on who's doing what part? Is there any kind of discussions of, I kind of want to do this here? Or are you guys kind of just like, if it fits, it fits?
So this album was kind of we're on like a time frame. It was kind of crunch time. So Casey had a nice chunk of it already written, and I had my sections, my songs that I would do. It was a bit of a transition for me to have to keep in mind that, okay, I'll do this, Casey can do this, both of us can do this. We have Colton as well who does vocals, so ultimately there's three of us that you have to be mindful of.
Yep.
And everything that I had written prior, it was just like what I'm capable of pulling off. So it was cool to write in a sense where you can just write outlandish lines and don't necessarily have to do the whole thing alone. You can really, really capitalize and really write some just wild shit. And both Casey and I can kind of split it up and break it amongst ourselves. That's been a really cool process to dive into and to.
It's pretty cool because I love
initiated going into writing with us. I wasn't going to tell him exactly how it was going to be because I think it's going to be a little bit trickier than I could ever articulate it through words, explain all the patterns and the process we have in the studio to vocalists. But once he was in the studio, and just clicked like right away. He's like, "Oh, I see." After day one, he's like, "I learned a lot," and it worked out. Like by day two, it was just like clockwork,
Oh, that's great because it's one of those things because you both are screaming, right? It's different with like, I don't know, off the top of my head, like Amity Affliction. Let's go there. You got the screamer, you got the lead singer. You kind of know chorus is going to be here, verse is going to be here. So it's interesting to see that intertwine. And funny you mentioned that you could just write this outlandish kind of stuff and know you don't have to be able to perform that whole thing live. I didn't even think of that. That's quite clever. And going to the live bit, doing it live with two vocalists, God, that's got to be a lot easier than being up there by yourself doing the whole show.
It's trickier than it seems.
Oh, really?
You have to learn the songs, but you also have to I have to learn what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. Like I have to learn Casey's parts and both of our parts. Like when we're both coming in together, and we have parts where it's both Casey and myself.
Yeah.
So it's really like working around this like giant puzzle. Because it's not just learning the songs and learning the patterns, but you also have to learn like, okay, this is my part, this is Casey's part. That way you're not just like flashing the entire time on stage.
Yeah. It turns into this interesting like vocal frog game. And it's like he does one line, I do this line, he does the next one, and then we both layer this one, next person does the next line, and strategize it in a way where we can have as comfortable breath control as possible, but to also like put proper emphasis where it needs to be. You don't always need two vocalists going at the same time,
Yeah.
But we definitely had like throw a wrench into the mix and just make the patterns pretty damn intricate. It's not just like A, B, A, B, A, B, C. it'll be like A, B, C, A, D, E, F, A, B, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have to not only learn the song, but I think learning a song as a solo vocalist, you kind of just know when the vocals are, if you know the lyrics or not. But this, now you have to also pay attention to the cues of what is yours and what is not. So it's like learning 2 songs in one.
It almost sounds, the way you described it, almost sound like you're doing algebra. I'm going, oh, wait, maybe it is more confusing having multiple vocalists. Didn't think we'd get math in the metal today, but there you go. Learned something new. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back in time, because you both have been doing this for a long time. And I like to ask this question because everyone's had a different answer. Learning to actually do these vocal techniques when you first started, how did you go? Because I know myself, when months of just kind of it's not working. Then eventually one day it just clicked for me. You know, get on YouTube, watch all the tutorial videos, none of them worked. What about for you guys? How was your journey to, because you do make some interesting sounds?
I myself, I kind of just stumbled upon that I was just able to do it. I had friends back home that were metalheads, and I necessarily wasn't really necessarily a metalhead initially. And they would be listening to like Lamb of God or this or that, and I would just, you know, kind of be like, oh yeah, all they're doing is going like, bah, bah, bah. And my friends were like, no, that wasn't bad. And when I started kind of tinkering around and listening to stuff, and got into, you know, Lamb of God, All Felt Heritage, like Whitechapel, and Suicide Silence, and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. And then I just kind of took the little foundation that I had and started chipping away, and I did vocal covers for years in my mom's kitchen, and I just kept at it and tried to make a little name for myself, and I just refused to not figure it out. So like, I was very persistent at it.
That's cool. I'm almost jealous that you kind of fell into it naturally. But that's cool. What about yourself, Casey?
Well, I think it's pretty similar, like in terms of falling into it naturally. Because I feel like when I'll teach vocals to people, there's a large part of it is me just saying that it is intuitive, and I can't necessarily articulate everything that's going on. I can't show a 3D model of what's happening with the throat and how to use those muscles. You just have to feel it out for the most part. But you know, of course, you can break it down into steps. But when I had first learned, I was like 15 years old.
Yeah.
And I actually used to play bass in the band that pretty much is AngelMaker now, but the previous like band, preliminary band.
Yeah.
And there was like, what do you call it? Just like backup vocals. Played what's the song called? Like Nails to a Casket by I Killed the Prom Queen.
Yep. Wow, that takes it back. Wow.
Backup vocals in it. So I tried doing that. I was like, oh, I can do that. And then I just kept trying from there, trying like August Burns Red, Lamb of God, Devil Wears Prada. I was like, oh, I can do that. And started going into like Job for a Cowboy, Cattle Decapitation, the Black Dahlia Murder, and just kept going, not allowing myself to limit myself. Same mindset, you know, but learning not to overdo it, and just really like investing time in the overall anecdotal structure of how to do vocals.
Yeah.
It's big words here. Just math.
It's all right. You already started with the math equations a bit earlier. Now we're getting into English lessons, so it's all good. It's funny how everyone says Lamb of God. Lamb of God really is that kind of gateway band to get into that heavier style. I don't even know if Lamb of God know how influential they've been to this generation of musicians, but maybe in 5-10 years when they become a legacy band, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is kind of like everything, you know, kind of started there. They're like the Metallica for these days. But I know I don't have you guys for a lot longer, so I want to make sure I ask this question as well before I let you go. You've both been on the road for a long time. This world is a crazy place. Have you had anything, let's say, strange or interesting happen that kind of stands out of like, oh, anything crazy ever happened on the road? And you go, well, yeah, this one time.
My mind is just flooded with all these wild experiences that have happened. So many flavors of experiences. I guess like collectively as a band, we've all had like an alien encounter.
Oh.
So there's one of those, but maybe that's a story for another time. We don't have much time. Definitely some. I don't know. One guy seemed like he was breaking out of prison, trying to get into our band. Yeah, I don't know. It was a time. Lots of highway things, you know.
Oh, wait, just a couple weeks ago, we were driving to a show, and we were in the middle of nowhere, and our driver swerved, and he called us, and we are like hundreds of miles from like civilization, like very long drive, and there was just a guy running in the middle of the road,
No shirt
on,
just trying to like run at the RV.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you explain that one. I don't know if you ever wanted to try and explain that one, trying to figure out that's bizarre. I don't know what's. That's strange. That's an interesting one. Well, next, if I ever get to interview you boys again, we're just talking about aliens the whole time, so that's what we're doing next time. But is there anything you wanted to say to the Australian fans before I let you go?
Say definitely check out our new single, Relinquished, and be on the lookout for a new record. And we have a lot more on the way, and this is only.
Come on out to the show, come bullshit with us. We're just dudes. So coming out, have a good time, play some heavy shit.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll see you this coming February, gentlemen. It has been a pleasure. You have a great rest of your day.
Sorry.
Thank you, guys.